Okay, so I want you to imagine going to your neighborhood block party.
Right, so
Right.
fun.
Yeah. The organizers decide to put this massive cover charge right at the entrance, and it's specifically to keep out folks from the next town over.
Okay.
But the only problem, the people actually paying that cover charge, the ones footing the bill, are you and your neighbors.
Right. Which makes no sense.
Exactly. And welcome to another deep dive. Today, our mission is to unpack this really, frankly, incredibly insightful article from Mondoro. It's titled The Great Trade Illusion.
It's a great piece.
It really is. And the goal here is to just, cut through all that explosive political rhetoric that always surrounds international trade. We want to examine the on-the-ground reality of tariffs.
Yeah, getting past the talking points.
Right. Like what this article argues they actually do to global supply chains, to small businesses, and ultimately to your wallet.
Well, and the whole premise of the Mondoro article is that for anyone operating inside global supply chains right now,
Anyone at all.
pretty much, whether you're like a boutique furniture designer or maybe a localized component builder or even just a mid-size importer, for those folks, tariffs are not acting as this, economic shield that politicians often promise.
Right, the whole "we're protecting you" narrative.
Exactly. The piece argues they function a lot more like an unpredictable drag anchor.
A drag anchor, wow.
Yeah, they cause immense pricing volatility, they disrupt established networks, and essentially they end up penalizing the exact same businesses they claim to protect.
So today we are going to look really closely at the mechanics laid out in the article, the hidden costs, and the ultimate economic case it makes for open trade.
Let's do it.
So to really get into how this impacts everything from, the furniture sitting in your living room right now to the specialized machinery in local factories, we have to start by looking at the biggest misconception the article targets.
And it is a massive misconception.
It really is. It's this whole question of who is actually writing the check to the government. Because, when trade policy dominates the news, the headlines always promise these very simple, bite-sized solutions.
Right, like we're making foreign competitors pay.
Exactly. Making them pay. But that's not what happens, is it?
No, the rhetoric certainly leans heavily on that idea, but economically speaking, the article emphasizes that a tariff is not a tax levied on a foreign government.
Okay.
And it's not paid by an overseas exporter either.
Wait, really?
Really. It is a border tax paid directly by the domestic importer of record when those goods clear customs.
Hang on. Let's break down that mechanism for a second, because I think this is where the confusion starts for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
If an American importer brings in a shipment of, say, natural rattan for furniture or maybe raw copper components, the foreign manufacturer isn't, sending a portion of their profits to the U.S. Treasury.
Not a single dime. Yeah, the transaction at the port of entry involves the domestic company paying that customs duty directly to their own government before they can even get their goods off the dock.
So they can't even touch their stuff until they pay.
Exactly. The foreign factory. They've already been paid for the product. The domestic business is the one taking the immediate, localized financial hit.
But surely, couldn't the importer just go back to the overseas manufacturer and be like, hey, my government just hit me with a 20% tax. You need to lower your prices by 20% to make up the difference.
You'd think so, right?
Right. Why wouldn't they just force the foreign supplier to absorb it?
Well, some massive multinational corporations, the absolute giants, might have the buying power to negotiate, slight price reductions.
Because they buy so much volume.
Exactly. But the vast majority of importers simply do not have that kind of leverage. According to Mondoro's analysis, when that sudden duty increase hits, that domestic importer faces three very harsh realities.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, they try to absorb the cost.
Which means eating into their own profit margins, right?
Inherently, yeah. And to survive that margin cut, a business has to find the money somewhere. So they freeze hiring.
Wow.
They halt capital investments. Maybe they wanted to expand their warehouse or upgrade their software that stops. The capital that would have gone into growing the business, stimulating the local economy, it's instead diverted to paying a tax at the border.
And if the margins are too thin to absorb the tax?
Then they have to pass the cost along. They raise prices for intermediate buyers, downstream manufacturers, and eventually you.
Me, the retail consumer.
Exactly. The product doesn't get any better, the delivery time doesn't get faster, but the price tag gets a lot heavier.
And we all know there's a ceiling to what a market will bear. If a consumer refuses to pay that artificially inflated price, what happens?
Then the importer is forced into the third reality, which is canceling production entirely. They literally have to shut down product lines that are simply no longer profitable under this new cost structure.
So if I'm a local business bringing in copper components, I'm the one paying the tax, not the overseas factory.
Yep.
The article paints this as basically a regressive domestic consumption tax, but it's disguised as a foreign penalty.
That's a great way to put it.
I mean, the domestic ripple effect is entirely localized. We're taxing ourselves.
Which brings up a crucial question raised in the text. If domestic importers are the ones footing the bill, who exactly is suffering the most from this tax?
Oh, this is good.
Yeah, because the data presented by Mondoro completely flips the standard protecting Main Street narrative totally on its head.
This was one of the most fascinating points in the piece for me, because trade protectionism is so often sold as this tool to protect small businesses against foreign dominance, right?
Right.
But the article argues that broad-based tariffs, like, say, a blanket 10 to 25% tax on an entire product category, inflict disproportionate harm on small to medium enterprises.
While the tech and retail giants just easily adapt. Think about what gives a small supplier or like a boutique manufacturer their competitive edge. It's their flexibility, their craftsmanship, their niche specialization.
Yeah, they're agile.
Right. But what they lack are massive multinational compliance departments. They do not employ teams of customs attorneys. So when a broad-based tariff is implemented, they are caught completely flat-footed.
It's like raising the basketball hoop by 3 feet mid-game.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. The massive multinational 7-footers, they can still dunk, but the small business point guards, they're completely boxed out of the game. They just don't have the reach to navigate the new rules.
And those 7-footers, in your analogy, they have global footprints.
Sure.
Large multinational corporations don't just sit there and take the hit.
What do?
They shift production across alternative international hubs. They utilize those compliance departments to negotiate specific tax exclusions for their own products.
Because they can afford the lawyers to find the loopholes.
Exactly. Or, because they have massive cash reserves, they simply absorb short-term losses specifically to capture the market share left behind by the smaller businesses that are failing.
Wow. So the big guys actually win. Meanwhile, the small business owner runs out of operating cash flow just trying to get their seasonal inventory out of customs.
Yep.
If protecting small suppliers is the goal, the article argues this strategy does the exact opposite. Because you just can't run a business when volatile trade barriers make daily operational budgeting impossible.
And, you know, the supposed silver lining that is frequently touted when these small businesses struggle is this idea that tariffs will ultimately force manufacturing jobs back home.
Ah, the reshoring argument.
Yes.
And the logic sounds incredibly appealing on the surface, right? Make foreign goods expensive, and domestic factories will magically reopen to fill the void.
That's the political promise.
But Mondoro points out this huge paradox in modern supply chains. The article argues these tariffs actually penalize the exact domestic makers they are meant to protect through something called the input cost trap.
Yeah, the input cost trap. The argument here is that the reshoring narrative completely ignores how products are actually manufactured today.
How so?
Well, most of the goods crossing borders aren't like finished shelf-ready consumer products in pretty packaging.
Right, they aren't fully built TVs just sitting in a box.
No, they are raw materials. They're intermediate components, specialized tooling, subassemblies. We're talking about things like steel, aluminum, copper, agricultural fibers.
Okay, let me try to put a practical spin on this input cost trap so I can wrap my head around it.
Go for it.
Let's say I'm starting a business building high-end industrial-style lamps locally, right here in my hometown.
Okay, nice.
To build these lamps, I need raw copper wire for the cages, and I need a specific molded ceramic for the base. Now, if a broad tariff hits, those inputs suddenly cost me 20% more to buy.
Right.
So I'm now forced to assemble my lamp using wildly expensive materials.
And this is where the trap snaps shut. Because an overseas competitor can buy those exact same raw materials, that copper and that ceramic, at untariffed global market rates.
Because their country didn't put a tariff on it.
Exactly. They assemble the lamp in their facility overseas, and then they export the finished product into secondary global markets, or even into your market far more cheaply than you can even build it locally.
Oh, wow. So because my raw materials were taxed, my final product is just too expensive?
Yep.
I can't compete with the fully assembled imported lamp Doesn't this mean I might actually have to lay off my domestic workers?
That is often the tragic irony of it.
The tariff that was supposedly designed to protect my factory is the exact mechanism that makes my lamp too expensive to sell.
By taxing the inputs, the domestic manufacturing costs just skyrocket immediately. The Mondoro piece argues that this effectively subsidizes overseas finished product manufacturers at the expense of homegrown makers.
That is wild.
High-value manufacturing relies entirely on global inputs. When a policy chokes off the inputs, it inadvertently chokes off the local factory.
And the damage doesn't seem to stay confined to just one industry or, one small lamp factory either. The article outlines this unseen chain reaction of hidden costs across the entire economy, starting with retaliatory tariffs.
Right, because trade wars are rarely one-sided.
Obviously.
When one nation unilaterally raises duties, foreign trading partners respond with counter tariffs, and according to the analysis, they are incredibly strategic about it.
What do you mean by strategic?
They look for the political and economic pain points in the opposing economy. They will specifically target export-driven sectors like commercial agriculture, advanced machinery, or aerospace.
So a domestic exporter, let's say, a commercial farmer who has spent 20 years building up a massive market presence in Asia, suddenly finds themselves priced out of those markets entirely.
Overnight.
A tariff designed to protect steel imports might inadvertently destroy a soybean farmer's export business on the complete other side of the country.
Because the global economy is far too intertwined for isolated actions, the article makes the case that you just cannot implement a massive border tax without triggering a series of secondary and tertiary economic shocks.
Which brings us to the red tape. I mean, the sheer administrative waste detail in the piece is just staggering.
It really is.
Navigating complex, ever-shifting tariff schedules requires enormous administrative overhead for any business just trying to stay compliant.
And that's capital that should be going to product research, design innovation, or employee development. Instead, it's wasted on customs attorneys, tariff classification consultants, complex logistical rerouting.
Just moving paper around.
It is completely non-productive spending. I mean, paying a consultant to figure out how to classify a copper wire doesn't make your final lamp any better.
No, of course not.
It just gets the wire across an imaginary line.
Wait, if these domestic companies are completely shielded from overseas competition because of the tariffs, what's stopping them from just getting lazy?
Oh,
Like, if they don't have to compete on price or quality with the rest of the world, do they just stop innovating?
you hit the nail on the head. Mondoro identifies that exact phenomenon as the loss of innovation pressure.
Loss of innovation pressure.
Yeah. A healthy market requires competition to drive modernization. Without the pressure of high-quality foreign alternatives, there is significantly less incentive for a domestic industry to upgrade their equipment, or improve their customer service, or push the boundaries of design.
So the consumer ends up paying significantly higher prices for inferior, outdated products simply because the better foreign alternatives have been artificially priced out of the market.
Exactly. The article argues that market distortion actively rewards subpar quality.
So if protectionist policies operate as this blunt, self-defeating instrument that inflates prices and stifles innovation, as the author argues, then we have to look at the alternative blueprint for a healthy economy.
Right, what's the solution?
The piece points toward a return to a free, open, and rules-based international trade system, driven by a concept known as comparative advantage.
Yes, comparative advantage.
We should probably define what that actually looks like in a modern supply chain, because it can sound a bit like textbook jargon.
It can. But the foundational idea of comparative advantage is actually pretty simple. It's that different regions excel at different things due to factors like geography, climate, cultural heritage, and infrastructure.
The article gives a really vivid example of this. Think about a region that is rich in old-growth tropical forests and has centuries of weaving heritage embedded in its culture.
Okay.
That region naturally excels at handcrafting things like natural rattan furniture.
Makes sense.
But on the flip side, a nation with highly advanced technological infrastructure and engineering universities naturally excels at software development and high-precision automation.
Exactly. And when trade moves freely, nations export what they make best and import what others produce more efficiently.
It's a win-win.
It is. This collaboration lowers the baseline costs for everyone involved. It elevates overall product quality. It allows businesses of all sizes to thrive because they are sourcing the best possible materials from the places that are naturally equipped to make them best.
So if you are listening to this and wondering, why comparative advantage matters to your daily life, the argument here is that open trade is what keeps the doors of your favorite local boutique open.
Absolutely.
It ensures the products you buy for your home are high quality and affordably priced, precisely because they were made using the best materials the world has to offer, without a massive artificial tax layered on top of them.
The Mondoro piece basically concludes that true economic resilience doesn't come from building tax walls around national borders.
No.
It comes from fostering an environment where small suppliers can actually access those global inputs, design innovative products, and compete fairly on a level playing field.
It's a really powerful argument for access over isolation.
Mm.
And it completely changes how you look at the price tag on a simple piece of furniture.
It really does. And, it also raises a fascinating question about the future.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if global supply chains are so deeply interconnected that a physical border tariff on raw copper can inadvertently destroy a local manufacturing job, what happens as our economy becomes increasingly digital?
Oh, wow, yeah.
When ideas, data, and digital services are the new raw materials crossing borders every millisecond, how will outdated concepts like physical border tariffs even function?
That is wild to think about. Trying to put a customs duty on a cloud-based design file.
Exactly.
That is a massive paradigm shift. It really makes you wonder if physical trade barriers are just fighting yesterday's war, while the actual economy is already moving into a completely borderless future.
It is definitely something to ponder as we watch these supply chains continue to evolve.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the great trade illusion. Now, if you are listening to this and you are interested in learning more about how to create, develop, and manufacture excellent home decor and furniture products using these global networks, you should absolutely talk to Anita at Mondoro.
Definitely. Navigating the complexities of international product development and global supply chains requires exactly that kind of specialized expertise.
It really does. And while you're at it, you should check out Mondoro's own shows. Go give a listen to Deep Dive by Global Trade Gal and the Global Trade Gal podcast. They are phenomenal resources available right now on all major podcast platforms.
Highly recommend them.
Also, make sure to subscribe to the Mondoro Company Limited YouTube channel for some fantastic video content, join their newsletter community, and sign up to receive a free copy of their latest lookbook.
There is just a wealth of information out there for anyone looking to truly understand how to build and source products efficiently in a global market.
There really is. So the next time you hear someone demanding that we put up a massive cover charge at the edge of town to keep the neighbors out, just remember to ask yourself who's actually going to be fitting the bill. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.